Indeed, the military leader of Mali is not playing. From 2023 till now, he has been changing the order of things, especially when it comes to the country's gold resource. Colonel Assimi Goita is demanding that his country enjoys more benefits from its gold resources, which have been under the control of foreign Western companies for decades. Is that too much to ask? These Western companies have enjoyed cheap and easy access to Mali's gold while the country is still struggling economically. Just a few days ago, the authorities in Mali seized 3 metric tons of gold worth $245 million from Barrick Gold, a Canadian gold mining firm that has been operating in the country for over 2 decades. The question is, why did Mali seize the gold, and what is the response of the Canadian firm? Let's find out. On Monday, 12th of January 2025, a senior manager from Canadian firm Barrick Gold revealed that 3 tons of gold had been seized by the authorities in Mali and transported to the capital, Bamako. The gold was taken from a mine near Kayes in the west and transported by plane and truck to the capital late Saturday. The seizure follows a warning letter sent to Barrick earlier this month from Mali's senior investigating judge Boubacar Moussa Diarra, saying 3 tons of gold would be seized. But why was the gold seized? Well, since 2023, Mali has been embroiled in a revenue dispute with not just Barrick Gold, but all the foreign mining companies in Mali. As you know, the military leader of Mali believes in the independence and sovereignty of his country, just like President Traoré of Burkina Faso. This sovereignty also extends to the economy of Mali, which has been regarded as one of the poorest in Africa despite its gold and other mineral resources. Mali, like Burkina Faso, is one of the leading producers of gold in Africa, but it also has an ample supply of manganese and lithium, 2 minerals key to the global energy transition, although these 2 minerals have not been extensively explored. According to the former mines minister, gold accounts for 25% of Mali's national budget, 75% of its export earnings, and 10% of its GDP. This is to tell you how important gold is to Mali's economy. However, just like most African countries' mining sectors, Mali's mining sector has been dominated since independence by Western mining companies, including the Canadian firms Barrick Gold and B2 Gold, Australia's Resolute Mining, and the British Hummingbird Resources. However, for Colonel Assimi Goita, achieving economic independence for his country means taking charge of its gold sector. So, in August 2023, Colonel Assimi signed a new mining code into law, which all the foreign companies in the country are required to adhere to. But before he did, he laughed at an audit into the gold mining sector and made a shocking discovery. The audit revealed that every year, Mali was losing about $500 million to $1 billion in mining revenues. Imagine if this money was injected into Mali's economy, there is no doubt that things would be much better than it is. So, Colonel Assimi signed a new mining code that will allow the government to take up to 35% stakes in new mineral projects and collect more revenues from the vital industry. It is the implementation of this new code that has been the source of dispute between the authorities in Mali and Barrick Gold. Barrick Gold has refused to adhere to the new mining code, saying that the mines it is exploiting should be subject to the previous code, which was in force at the time of their commissioning. You see, the old code permitted Barrick Gold to own 80% of the Loulo-Gounkoto gold mine, while Mali could only own a maximum of 20%. Furthermore, the code exempted Barrick from paying taxes while they were in operation. So, Barrick does not want to adhere to the new code because it would mean giving up more stake to the authorities in Mali. Seeing that Barrick was refusing to give in, Colonel Assimi decided to go aggressive. In September 2024, the Malian authorities arrested 4 senior executives of the Canadian mining company and accused the company of financial misconduct. Before we proceed, here is a reminder to like this video, drop a comment, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so. Now, according to the authorities in Mali, Barrick Gold owes about $512 million in outstanding debt, mainly unpaid taxes and dividends. Now, some Western media have said that Mali falsely accused Barrick Gold of financial misconduct. Well, if that is true, why did Barrick Gold offer to pay $370 million? We are not surprised that the media would report such things because they always find a way to make the military leaders of the Sahel look bad. Aside from the arrest, The authorities in Mali issued an order restricting the exports of gold shipments out of the country. But that's not all. The authorities in Mali have also issued an interim order against the existing gold stock at Loulo-Gounkoto, which has further prevented exports and disrupted operations. When this happened, the CEO of Barrick, Mark Bristow, threatened to suspend operations in Mali if the situation was not resolved. Perhaps the CEO of Barrick thought that threatening the authorities in Mali would make them stop the aggressive tactics. If it were a civilian government, there is no doubt that the government would bow to the company, but the military government has stood its ground and continued with its tactics. This is to show that Colonel Assimi is quite serious about the implementation of the new mining code. So, this is the reason why the 3 metric tons of gold were seized from Barrick. But how did Barrick respond? Well, Barrick announced that it has officially suspended operations in Mali, which interestingly is one of its biggest mines. In a statement released on Tuesday, the company wrote, "The military regime of the West African country had confiscated gold from the company's Loulo-Gounkoto mining complex and had transported the precious metal to a custodial bank. The government, which has been blocking exports from the mine since December, obtained an interim attachment order from a judge last week to allow it to seize the gold. As a result, Barrick has regrettably initiated the temporary suspension of operations while it continues to work toward a resolution." Now, when Barrick said resolution, it means that it has taken Mali to court. The Canadian company filed an ICC request for arbitration against Mali for demanding a greater share of mining proceeds. But the question is, will this arbitration change anything? Will it make Mali bow before Barrick? Well, there is no doubt that Barrick has a greater chance of winning the case. However, it will take years before a decision will be reached. And even if it is reached, the authorities in Mali can decide not to honor the ruling. So, who is at loss? Barrick, of course. Now, according to analysts, a production suspension at the mine could reduce Barrick's earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization by 11% in 2025. There is no doubt that Mali would also lose revenue in that period. But the fact is that Barrick Gold will be the one at a loss because it has invested so much in the mines. The Malian government, on the other hand, can choose to withdraw the mining license from Barrick Gold and give it to another company willing to adhere to its mining code. The interesting thing is that Barrick Gold is not the only company that has been involved in a revenue dispute with Mali. In October 2023, authorities arrested 3 employees of Australian-based Resolute Mining, including its CEO, Terence Holohan, and held them in custody for more than a week until the company paid $80 million and promised to pay another $80 within the coming months. Vancouver-based B2 Gold Corp managed to negotiate a new fiscal agreement with Mali in September without any of its executives getting arrested. Allied Gold Corp also announced a new agreement with the country around that time. These companies were smart enough to heed to the demands of the authorities in Mali so that they could continue enjoying the benefits of exploiting a mine in Mali. There is no doubt that these companies have agreed to the new mining code. Now, why can't Barrick Gold do the same? Now guess what? While it's very obvious that the authorities in Mali are taking this aggressive move to ensure that the country benefits more, some Western media have decided to publish trash and create a different narrative about the actions of Colonel Assimi. This is what a Western media house, the Globe and Mail, reported about the situation. The article published said, Barrick Gold, the Toronto-based mining giant, finds itself in the crosshairs of Mali's military junta amid a backdrop of increasing Russian influence in the West African nation's economy. The regime, which seized power in the 2021 coup and subsequently allied with Moscow, has intensified efforts to assert control over the lucrative mining sector, including targeting Barrick's key asset, the Loulo-Gounkoto complex. Mali's junta is considering expropriating the Loulo-Gounkoto mine, one of the world's largest gold-producing sites, the Globe and Mail writes. This move comes as part of broader efforts by the regime to tighten its grip on all aspects of the country, including suspending political activities and media coverage of political organizations. The junta's alignment with the Russian military further complicates the situation. Russian troops have been involved in seizing mining sites in Mali and neighboring countries, prompting accusations from the US government of using African mining revenue to fund global military operations. The article further added PTA, If Mali, backed by Moscow, takes over the gold mine, it will not be the first time that Russia has de facto taken control of such an asset in Africa. In 2020, Russian mercenaries, employed by the Kremlin-linked Wagner Group, captured an Axeman-owned mine in the Central African Republic. This then became a source of funding for Wagner. What sort of nonsense article is this? How do the actions of the Malian authorities relate to Russia? As we said earlier, the Western media will always find a way to put the military leaders of the Sahel in a bad light. And what better way to do that if not to relate everything they do to Russia? You see, for the West, allying with Russia is the greatest sin ever. So, given that Russia has been providing support to Mali's military, the authorities in Mali have ultimately become evil in the eyes of the West, and anything done in Mali must have a connection to Russia. This is absolutely ridiculous. It's as if the West does not believe that Africans can do anything or make decisions by themselves. The article said that Russian troops have been involved in seizing mining sites in Mali and neighboring countries, but that is a big lie. Where is the proof or evidence? It's so shameful that a media house would go as far as printing lies to substantiate its ridiculous claims. This was how the Western media reported last year, that Mali planned to give one of its mines to Russia. But what actually happened was that the mine was in the control of the Tuareg rebels, an armed group that has been causing violence in Mali. This group uses the mine to fund their activities and operations in Mali. However, with the help of the Russian mercenaries, Mali's military was able to secure the site and force the Tuareg rebels out. After securing the site, the Wagner Group helped to secure the sites for a while. Since then, there have been countless reports that the authorities plan to give the gold mining site explored by Barrick Gold to Russia. To make matters worse, Mali signed a contract with Russia last year to build a gold refinery. The non-binding memorandum of understanding between Mali and Russia involves building a 200 tons a year refinery. Al-Husseini Sano, a minister in Mali's military government, said, "This will allow us not only to control all gold production, but also to be able to correctly apply all taxes and duties." The memorandum is valid for 4 years, he said, without giving a timeline for construction. If built, it would be the West African country's largest gold refinery. Now let's say that the Western media is correct in their assertion. The question is, how is it any of their business? Mali is a sovereign country just like the US, France, and Russia. As a sovereign country, Mali can decide to ally with whoever it wants to ally with and make decisions that will benefit its country. This is something the West knows so much about, especially the US, who always makes decisions to protect America's national interests. No one has ever faulted the US for its choice of allies and the decisions it makes, so why should it be any different from Mali? African countries belong to Africa, and the West should try to mind their business. Now, it's the same way Western media related the situation in Mali to Russia is exactly the same way French President Macron related the reduction of France's influence in the Sahel to Russia. You see, President Macron doesn't believe that Africa decided to kick them out because people were tired of France's neo-colonialism. Instead, he believes that the only reason they were kicked out is because Russia instigated it, meaning Russia is to blame. In a speech, President Macron stated that anti-French sentiments began to spread across the Sahel because Russia published false information about France to turn the minds of Africans against France. But what exactly is the false information he is talking about? Is it the fact that French companies have been exploiting Francophone Africa for years? Or the fact that the French military has not done anything to stop insecurity in the Sahel? President Macron also went on to say that the Russian mercenary group Wagner was behind the coups that took place in the Sahel. Can you imagine that? President Macron even had the guts to say that some African countries still exist because the French military was in their country. How does that even make any sense when the record clearly shows that the insecurity in the Sahel increased after the French military came into the picture? Clearly, France has refused to learn, and that's the reason why African nations are embracing the vision of a multipolar world and mutual international cooperation as espoused by Russia, China, and other global South nations. A world that is no longer under the control of the West and its allies, and this fact is what has made France angry and jealous of Russia. Anyways, Regardless of what France and the West think, African countries are free to choose and do whatever they want. We applaud the tactics of Colonel Assimi in ensuring that Mali reap all the benefits it deserves from its mines. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like this video, drop a comment, and share.